everyone, I am Shifna Sharin, 6th semester student of BA Functional English Department. Welcome to E-Content Development Center, Majlis Arts and Science College, Puramannur. In this video, I would like to draw your attention into the topic Translation and Important Theoreticians, which is an important topic in the paper Translation Studies for 6th semester students of BA Functional English. This video will provide you the ideas about what is translation, role of a translator, major theoreticians in translation, and their views about translation also. So, let's get into the topic. In this era of globalization, where mostly everyone wants to explore something new in each moment, it becomes impossible to actually avoid how important translation is, isn't it? Yes. We all do realize that translation is not just a way of converting words into other words, but it's a complicated and a very crucial way of explaining things in a way that its actual meaning is delivered without harming its origin. As we are discussing about the topic translation and important theoreticians, let's start with translation itself. So, what is translation actually? Translation is the transference of meaning from one language to another. So we can say that it's an operation performed on two languages. The two languages are SL and TL. SL means source language and TL means target language. Translation also carries one culture into the other. If we are looking at the role of translation in our daily life, it is extensively multidimensional. Some of the places where translation plays an important role include growth of multinational companies, cultural interchange, national external affairs, tourism, and so on. Just like the translation, the role of a translator is also important. As we all know, the role of a translator is basically to transform information from one language to another to make it more understandable. He or she is a trained professional who has the capability of addressing social and cultural differences when translating. A translator has to make a balance between maintaining close fidelity to the original and utter freedom of it. He must maintain semantic compatibility along with grammaticality. He must not embellish words with a distort meaning. That means a translator should not use certain kinds of words which twist the actual meaning. Also, he should avoid the words and idioms that may confuse the reader. Now, let's have a look at some more definitions for translation given by eminent personalities in the field of translation. Newmark indicates that the translation is rendering the meaning of a text into another language in the way that the author intended the text. Nida and Tabor, on the other hand, state that translating consists in reproducing in the receptor language the closest natural equivalent of the source language message. According to Catford, translation is the replacement of textual material in one language SL by equivalent material in another language TL. Next, let's move to the topic, that is, who are the important theoreticians and what are their views. The very first person is J.C. Catford. He was a Scottish linguist and phonetician of worldwide renown. Catford was of the view that any theory of translation must draw upon a theory of language. According to him, the process of translation has to be analyzed scientifically, and this is possible only through a general linguistic theory applicable to languages in general. This general linguistic theory should be sufficient to describe particular languages. Such a theory can be extended to compare different languages and language varieties like idiolects, dialects, and register. Catford viewed translation as a language activity. For him, it is the replacement of textual material in the source language by equivalent textual material in the target language. But there cannot be textual equivalents at all levels. At all levels means phonological, graphological, grammatical, lexical, and semantic. So, textual equivalents are to be related to contextual equivalents considering the lexical and grammatical equivalents also. According to Catford, translation involves establishing a meaningful contextual correspondence between any two languages giving prominence to equivalence of meaning. So, the theory of translation is ultimately based on the theory of meaning. In Catford's view, translation is not a transference of meaning but a substitution of meaning. He put forward the distinction between two terms. The two terms are textual equivalence and formal correspondence respectively. He defined textual equivalent as any TL form, it can be a text or portion of text, which is observed to be the equivalent of given SL form, and formal correspondent as any TL category, it can be a unit, a class, a structure, or an element of structure, etc., which can be said to occupy as nearly as possible the same place in the economy of the TL as given SL category occupies in the SL. So that's all about Catford. Second person is Eugene Nida. He was a linguist who developed the dynamic equivalence Bible translation theory and one of the founders of the modern discipline of translation studies. Eugene Nida entered the field of translation at almost the same period as Catford, and his works are quite significant because theory and practice are given equal importance in them. Major works of Nida are Towards a Science of Translating, which is published in 1964, Theory and Practice of Translation, which is published in 1969, Exploring Semantic Structures in 1974, Language, Structure and Translation in 1975. Nida's works can be considered as a culmination of the long years of practical experience he had in the translation of the Bible. If Catford approached the translation from an analytic angle, Nida's approach is instinctive. Nida considers the role of the receptor is very important in judging the adequacy of translation. In his view, the instinctive response of the receptor is of paramount importance in judging the translated work. His theory is based on the source, message and the receptor. According to him, there are no identical equivalents in translation. In his view, if the receptors in the TL understand the message in a manner substantially equivalent to the manner in which the original receptors comprehended it, then the translation is adequate. Instead of absolute correspondence, Nida advocated the selection of the closest natural equivalent to the message of the source language, both in meaning and style. Nida identifies three types of meanings in the messages as lexical meaning, referential meaning and connotative meaning. Lexical meaning derives out of the relationship between the words forming parts of sentences. Referential meaning has nothing to do with the linguistic units but arises out of the referential context of the message. The connotative meaning is based on the personal and emotional response of the receptor, as the receptors of the SL and TL belongs to different cultural background and have different mental frames. Their response to the message is different too. This brings me to the end of my topic. So, we can say that translation is not an easy process as we think. It is more than just changing the words from one language into another. Translation builds bridges between cultures. So that's all from me. I hope you got an idea about this topic and thank you so much for watching this video.